Well, what do we have here? A GT with the triple triangle technology. A TAC model. Wow, that's a classic. Let's review and see if it's actually worth the parts, or is it still a viable bike to ride after this?
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles.
Welcome to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging out with the guy. Hi, I'm Justin the guy. Obviously, I have a garage shop. Taking scary how to use bikes one bike at a time.
If you like these videos, please like and subscribe.
Well, what do we got here? Got ourselves a classic. Hey, welcome back to I Know a Guy Bicycles, hanging with the guy. Hey, I'm Justin the guy on this old bike series, and we are actually going old on this guy. Yes, GT. What makes this an older bike right out of the gate? Well, 1-inch quill stem. That really kind of puts you back, right? Yeah, I have to think about that guy. But anywho, yeah, it's a 1-inch quill. You got the old school 105. And it's a double, and it's a GT. Well, what is GT? Well, back in the day, whoa. Option, there is more. More, you say? Push the more button. Push it. Push it. I dare you to push it. Once you push that button, you get more details about the video you are watching, in addition to all the tools that I use in the shop, as well as suggestion for improving your ride. In addition to help me provide advocacy in the cycling community, also links to other social media accounts as well as my website to find the products I actually sell and other insights in the industry. Other videos linked below. Extend your cycling experience here on YouTube. And now back to your original programming. Yeah, Gary Turner was the guy's name, and he made GT bikes back in the early 90s, I think maybe late 80s, but definitely in the 90s. We were a GT dealer back in Parker Bikes, and it was one of our pretty core lines that we had for a long time. Trying to remember, we started off with Schwinn and Trek, and I think either GT or maybe Mongoose. We may have had GT and Mongoose at the beginning as well, or really shortly after. Yeah, I mean, it was one of those unique lines, and it's also kind of what they were considered a B line. It was not usually a front header in a shop. It usually was paired up with either a Specialized or a Trek or a Giant dealer at the time. So a little bit of history there. GTs were really known for the triple triangle concept. You know, they had this little kickback here. If that looks familiar, and the newer bikes actually that released this year from Trek, they have a similar looking kind of high-end road bike notch. So when I saw that, I just busted out laughing, because this is basically old tech being regurgitated again, just like the oval rings for mountain bike, which was Biopace in the 90s. So kind of cracks me up when you see some of this newer stuff. I'm like, I've seen that before somewhere. Where was that? Oh, there it is. The idea is supposed to kick you back a little bit further. It did really make the frames a little bit heavier, but the line actually did, you know, they did have some steel frames, but they also made a titanium. I'm not sure if they made it or some other company made the titaniums for them at the time, but GT is one of those brands that I knew very well in the 90s because we carried them, a lot of the mountain bikes. I really never took one off-road per se, and they're more known for the mountain bike kind of scene, so that's kind of the main reason we carried them. Plus they had a little bit lesser pricing to them. And they did very match up well with the Trek and Schwinn at the time, because, you know, those lines were, Schwinn was the enchilada at the time, and Trek and Specialized were kind of jockeying up, coming up the ranks. GT actually embraced the mountain bike scene as well as Trek and Specialized, and Schwinn thought it was a fad, and that's why they're, you know, one of many reasons they went out. But anywho, this had the 105. This definitely puts me back. This has to be 98. At least the componentry shows that. 105 hubs with Mavic CXP 21 rims, which were real decent in the time. So why did I get this? Well, I saw the shifters and I was like, I need some parts. So this is another one of those bikes that I initially engaged the person to buy the bike for the parts because, you know, I could always use an extra wheel set, and, you know, the shifters and the wheel set alone would double what I would paid for the bike. Granted, I didn't pay very much for this at all. Then I'm kind of like looking at it closer and it's like, yeah, let's give this a try. Let's see if we can refurbish this and make it functional and useful to somebody. Yeah, it's pretty red, and it has a tack on it, which is, you know, strong name with edge front fork, which has some pretty good scuffs on it. So see if I can do my detail magic on that and make that go away. But the frame mostly, except for a couple other scuffs, look pretty decent. It's an aluminum frame. It's 6061 is the alloy, which is very common. That was one of the very common alloys used for the mid-range to upper-end stuff. And these were, I believe, made, no, maybe I'm thinking of Cannondale, that kind of thing. But yeah, I really have to dive into this frame to see if it's even worth doing anything for. Again, right, I bought it for the parts mainly. The shifters and the wheels is the what caught my eye. So let's just kind of, you know, tear into this thing and see if the frame's worth anything. But if you found something like this for yourself, would it be worth diving into? I mean, let's say you came across it. I didn't come across it by a garage sale, but what if you came across it at a garage sale and you're like, you know, and then you had a family member or somebody, you know, like they could use the road bike, nothing too expensive. You just want to get them into it. I mean, you know, you pay like $50 or $100 or something for it. And you're like, is it worth putting 4 times more, 3 times more money into it to get it ready to ride? Because just a tune-up alone these days is anywhere from 100 to 150 and on up. So you're already in it with labor if you're having it done professionally. Is it something that could have been ridden right out of the gate? No, this is definitely not ready to be ridden whatsoever. So that being said, let's check her out. I did kind of run through it briefly when I was picking it up. It was kind of a interesting engagement, conversation chat. These Hutchinson tires were really popular back in the day, but I'm not going to use it because it's all cracked out. But Hutchinson had a very big presence in the late 90s, early 2000s for the race circuit. So you'd see them all over, like Tour de France and all those other major races, that kind of thing. Just going to pop this off and show you real quick what kind of details you look for on an older bike. Is like they have Velox tape. And why am I talking about Velox tape? Well, Velox tape is a rim tape that's been used for decades. And this is actually was done properly, right? I mean, the tape goes side to side. I don't believe this is custom built at all. This is the manufactured, but it does have the 105 hub, which is pretty decent. The skewer, as you can imagine, it's a trainer skewer because this bike is so old it ended up on somebody's trainer basement. So that's probably where it lived its last cycling experience, not on the road, unfortunately, outside. So we will need to see if I can find some skewers to match the front or similar to. Taking this cassette off. Oh, my tool shifted. Get in there. There we go. Don't want to booger that up, but it came off. So what is this? You think it's an 8-speed? Hope it's 8-speed. So if it's a 7-speed, then it's a 7-speed free hub body. The free hub body, if it's 8-speed, is 8, 9, 10, and it's on there pretty good. So I'm going to have to use a little bit of wedging. Sometimes on these older ones, not prying a lot, but I'm just, you know, what happens, it cuts into the free hub body. Oh, this is interesting. Old school freehub body. Let me show you this guy. So back in the day, on this particular freehubs, they had the last few bits here threaded for a specific kind of freehub body at the time. Oh, come on, loosen up. And the lock ring was actually tightened. The lock ring was the chain ring. So this was designed to take that style. Man, well, I got boogered up in there pretty good. Don't you worry, I'll get it figured out here. Just need to. There we go. Got wedged. So this is alloy, right? And this is a steel freehub body, and the alloy just kind of got smushed in there. And that's where now it's like you have a steel with an alloy freehub body, and that's where you'll see those cuts into it. So, but since this is a steel freehub body, and they used to sell these separately so you can actually replace the cartridge. And oh my golly, that is actually really smooth considering of all the garage fuzz. Ugh, yucky. Icky hoo. Woo, that's yucky. Ooh. Has original brake pads. I can definitely tell you that. And the back ones are kind of cracking a little. See, actually the other bike I had that had a old school Tegra, I'll just use those. Those are actually in mint condition. I'll just swap those pads and put them on this guy. And yeah, this is like, you know, the 105. It still has its logoing. I have a sneaky suspicion once I clean all this off, it's actually going to look like brand new for the most part. I mean, some of the componentry. The frame has its scarring on it. I don't think I'll get that completely done, but to like new like, but a lot better. And whatever I do on there, it'll be protected. GT also they had really cool frames in the sense of that they were built in the United States. It would be ball burnished aluminum. In other words, it would be alloy, not clear coated, but it would be a polished aluminum. And the treatment, the ball burnishing of it would treat the alloy so you don't have to do anything. Man, that is smooth as well. So this is the original skewer too for the front. Too bad they don't have the original rear. Maybe I have an old one. Oh wait, no, it's not. Hey, is it? No, it's not. Ursa, whatever that is. Okay, moving on. I highly doubt this chain is good. I mean, it's one of those things that for this age, oh yeah, that's beyond gauge worthy there. So we will pop this guy off. We'll even try to look for a master link on this. So the freehub, back to the freehub body. The freehub body is a 8-speed. The 7-speeds are shorter and only specific to 7-speed. And when they went to 8-speed, then they started designing the cassettes skinnier to fit that spacing because they had to. So I'll use this to measure. But other than that, it's going to be recycled. So back to the freehub body. If this was shorter, you would be only with a freehub body at 7-speed. Back in the day, we would get a longer axle and an 8-speed and convert it, but that's not even worth anything to do that today. So, but yeah, since this is an 8-speed, double check to make sure. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wait, no. 5. You gotta be kidding me. That's a 9-speed? Weird. That is definitely an 8-speed. Huh, we'll have to see. I'll have to look up some part numbers on that because the shifters are newer. That's what drew me to it. So they may have upgraded the shifters and the chain and the cassette and made it a interesting 9-speed system. Wow, that is kind of quirky. to say the least. Yeah, we'll see if that even works. Because back then there was some compatibilities between the 8 and 9, so I don't really see it being too much of an issue, but we'll take a gander on that and see where we're at. One more. But at this point, I'm really just checking out the frame. And if I do some research and find out that it's going to be too much in parts, I'm just going to part it out. But let's see if we can try to revive this. I mean, what is that? Oh, that's internal routing. Wow. Internal cable routing. There's a whole sleeve in there. So that's interesting. Which is not uncommon until today's standards. They still do that today, but it's interesting. It's a whole piece. But anywho, there we go. And that would be kind of a booger to slide through, but you could do it. Yeah, it's not too bad. There's no fittings to pull it apart. It's just a hole in the frame, which it was pretty common for the 90s. It's just like, oh, we'll just put a hole. It is a weld bead around that hole, though, which is kind of interesting little thing to it. And the welds look pretty good on these guys. But yeah, I'm dealing with a lot of garage fuzz. That's what I'm seeing on this so far. So let's get this brake off. Okay, the 105 brake. Yeah, it's not rusted or anything. So it is stored inside a garage or a barn. Maybe there's a barn worthy. You know, that barn, you know, they have like that weird fuzz. I don't know where that comes from, but it's kind of like a coated dust bunny from, oh, interesting. All right, so far so good. If I can get that, I'll have to work on that later. All right, take that. Well, the housing doesn't look too terrible. Not that I'm going to use it, but definitely shows that it hasn't been worn out. There is a buildup caking on the rear derailleur jockey pulleys. We'll show you that real quick here, and I like to take care of that before. Oh, this does have a removable derailleur hanger, or replaceable derailleur hanger. Oh, my trash is getting full. So not as pretty, but so what we do here is take a flathead screwdriver and scrape off, you know, the 20-year-old Teflon buildup that was done back in the day, that when it was ridden last, and then put it in the garage forever. And the jockey pulleys, they look like they're still intact. They haven't cracked or anything, so that's and you definitely want to scrape this stuff off first before you put it into a sonic cleaner or a solvent tank, because it is something that you don't need to be fighting. All it does is smears. That's all it does. It smears around, and it's not as nice. So yeah, come on. I know there's a lip edge on this jockey pulley. Yeah, get that most of that stuff off. Yeah, treat that really good. I mean, you can see like the back plating here. Nice and gunked up for sure. Icky poo. Icky, icky. Let's set that aside. Yeah. All right, moving along. So it does have the newer tech there, which is nice to know if you needed to get a replacement hanger. There's a company called Wheels Manufacturing, and that company makes a whole bunch of derailleur hangers for all sorts of different brands, and I'm sure that you'll probably still be able to find something that would match. Keeping that in mind that a lot of these frames are built in a lot, same time frame or the same facility, which they use the same hanger, i.e. like Motor Pecan has the Fuji hanger, which I think fits another Mercer, I believe. So looking at this guy, it's a double 105. A little bit of surface rust, but nothing too bad. Most of that will clean off. Still looks intact because you're not looking at it spanning out or anything of that nature, so it should still be very functional. And let's get these bottle cages off. Double check those mounts too. Yeah, we did, back in the day, we did a lot of GTs. GT was a pretty cool brand. Oh man, what was that? They had a very famous rider. They had a lady rider, I think. Was that Missy? I forget her last name. She was a professional mountain bike racer in the 90s. Missy. I think she ride for GT, but the other guy was Hans. Hans was a trials rider. I got to see him perform at one of the bike shows. Hans was really cool on like those trial bikes, and it was like a the trial bikes you see now, not but they don't have a seat on them. They just sit there and they just bounce around and jump off of stuff, that kind of thing. That's what he was doing, and they'd line people up, and he'd hop over all of them, and had a little obstacle course type thing they had at the show. Shows back then were really cool. I mean, they really put a lot into them. The reason being, there was no internet. I mean, you're not seeing any of this stuff anywhere else until you went to the show in August or September. And that was the place to go, to see all the new stuff. And I remember the bike show we would go, and GT is also another really cool company that would have, I wish I had a picture of it. It's kind of like they would have a cardboard box, and it was everybody's kind of go-to to go to the GT booth first thing, to get this cardboard. It looked like a suitcase, the cardboard suitcase looking thing, and it had a little push slot so you can take all your brochures and junk and swag and throw it all in there. So it was kind of cool. It's like one of those things that's what you did, and that's what everybody did back then. And if you were back in the day watching this video and you're like reminiscing, like, oh yeah, those GT boxes, that's right. That was pretty cool. So. And it was very smart on their hand. They're like, oh, we'll provide the box for everybody to use to grab all their swag and brochures and all that with all the other vendors, because that was the only place you got to see all the cool stuff and talk to the reps, and you'd see some of the racers, and saw Evil Knievel there. They had him on a throne. I think it was sponsoring or they paid him to sponsor one of the BMX lines. Oh yeah, GT is also known for BMX. Oh, that's why we carry them, because Trek and Schwinn didn't really have much of a BMX, even though they had kids bikes. The BMX names back in the 90s were GT and Schwinn. That's right. And GT also had a couple lines that they purchased. Freeline, or what was that called? Something light. Powerlight. Anyway, so they carried several different BMX lines as well. And that's why we carried them, that's right. And they carried the mountain bikes, of course, because they're popular. And same thing with Mongoose, we carried their mountain bikes too. Oh, there you go, something gave. Oh, something gave was the crank. Oh boy, now we're in trouble, boys and girls. That did not give, and it's threaded all the way. Whew, okay, so what happens on these old cranks, these threads, the alloy threads, is what holds the tool in place. And oh man, if I can't get that to rethread on there, that is toast. Oh boy. I was hoping to be able to keep this. They go on, but they don't come off. So I might have to see what I can do about that. So I did check it, see if I was all the way threaded all the way in. That's why I had this. Weird. I haven't had this happen to me in like a couple decades. Wow. Yeah, that's kind of a bummer. Yeah. Must have been already boogered up from before and I didn't notice that. Not that I could have done anything about it. Yeah, I felt something give, like, you know, that feels like candle wax breaking. That's, yeah. Well, anywho, well, it's either salvage that bad boy. I do have a puller out there. I'll have to look into it, but it's not something I'll be able to use the crank. The crank would be basically toast. Wow, that's a true bummer. Wow, that actually did. I can get that cut back in there. Oh, maybe. I swear I had it in there all the way. At this point, maybe it was just already cross-threaded in there. So what this block is, it's supposed to hold it in place, right? While you, and that's about as far as that's going to go. And what it does is push up against the crank or bottom bracket spindle. Got it off. Whew. Wow. Yeah, yikesy. Oh boy. That's gonna have to be inspected. Double checked. Crazy stuff. Huh. Oh yeah, that's I don't know about that. See if we can get the other side off with less troublesome. That's where lied the problem with the old cold weld contact points is they would, you know, the newer ones are a lot nicer because it's a through and you don't have to worry about this. Whew. I have to thread it up. My goodness, I'm spending a lot more time on this than I should. Yikes. Get that in there. So this is the trick of using an old strap to hold the arm in place. Johnson's related to the frame, so you can get leverage. It's all about leverage. There we go. Alright. So, that being said, well, the bottom bracket still feels okay. That's a good sign. Oop, wrong way. Whew. My goodness. Getting challenged today. I knew this was going to be challenging, but not like that. No, we'll work on that later, loosen that up. But we're at a point where we can actually polish this frame up and see if it's worth putting anything into. Get my rag. I use half water, half purple power as a solution for my initial cleaning. It's a degreaser. Get some of the crud off. Always use gloves and try not to spray it in your hand or your face. And this was actually a brighter red than what you're seeing right now. Originally, it has some good gunks on it. It might be just fun just to polish it up and see if I can get it to do its original original red. Got a guide plate underneath. I need to add some lube, so I'm going to use this. It's called Bike Slide, Bike Aid. Originally, it's called Bike Aid, and it's like a graphite, and it penetrates really well. So it's really good on one of those things where you need to get into those spats to give it a good cleaning. Oh yeah, that garage fuzz is all something. A little bit of my hair on there too, or somebody's hair. Kind of has that texture to it, like a matte finish, but I don't think it was matte originally, so I think it's because of the fuzz that's been on it for so long. So yeah, this is definitely more in the realm of restoring, even though I don't restore frames, I'm more refurbish. And if you're like, what's the difference? Well, refurbish means to get it into functional and clean it up as best as possible. Restoring is trying to get it to be like mint condition, like it was new. Trying to get it into the best condition it's going to be as a usable. And restored items are like, your collectibles where the bike doesn't get used, just gets thrown into I'd say a museum of some sort. Talking about museums, Specialized had a museum style. Morgan Hill, and during COVID, somebody ransacked it and stole all the one-of-a-kind bikes, and I don't think they ever recovered hardly any of them. And they got sold off to other countries and disappeared. So my main concern is, the fork blades, it needs some cleaning. Couple good, it's not fraying, it's just the clear coat got compromised, so fork blades are probably okay. Just gonna polish them up, touch them up, and see if we can get these, those feel very not greased. It's like they've been on there for a good couple decades without being removed. So those might need a soak too. At least the bolts come out, so that's a good sign. Alright, well, barring that crane that I need to inspect, I think we might be pretty good. I'm proceeding to clean the parts in the frame. I mean, I was going to anyway for the parts, knowing that's what I originally bought the bike for. It's for the parts, if I need it, as backup parts. I don't have them specifically anything in mind. Just like, ooh, that's a pretty good deal, and some parts I can probably use. Definitely, you can see the casing kind of exploded on this guy. What happens on this older stuff, like the plastic of the housing here, that'll split, or the housing itself will split. Then all of a sudden you don't have any shifting. So, the shifters definitely need to be cleaned, although they're not too overly dirty inside. So, my question is on this, and this might be really hard to find any kind of spec sheets of any kind on this model, but I think the shifters are newer. So a guy upgraded to a 9-speed system, but they kept the 8-speed drivetrain, which probably worked just fine. So, anywho, let's take a look at this after I get all these parts cleaned up. And frame looks like it's, no cracks or anything. I think we're good. Do some detailing on it, see if we can get it to be more than what it is. These wheels, I think they'll turn out pretty well. This is like your old school 32 spoke wheels. Hubs still feel really good, which kind of mind blowing in itself. Anywho, let me dive into this and see what we have an outcome with parts after we give them a good cleaning. See what we're looking at then. Well, looking at these parts, that cranks, that's toast. So we'll have to deal with that. And I saved this rear derailleur as a hot mess to do a feature video on, overhauling that, so that's going to be cleaned later. The wheels, I cleaned them up and trued up. They'll be good for another set. Unfortunately, put dollars and cents in what the value of this bike would be. I am not going to finish refurbish it and put more parts into this, due to the fact that originally I bought it for its parts. So, but the frame's good and it's starting to polish up. I still need to do some more polishing on it, that kind of thing. So why am I doing this? Well, fortunately, at the end of the day, it is still a business and I have to turn a profit. So when you look at a particular bike like this and the shifters, well, I would have to upgrade the derailleurs or find a set of shifters. So, and though that's actually kind of a heavy lift. So if this is you, that would be a kind of expensive pinch. So basically the frame's still good, so I'm gonna put that up for sale just for the frame itself. I'm gonna save the wheels and shifters for other bikes that I do work on as backup parts. And the various other pieces, maybe the brakes and the derailleurs, maybe I'll list those too. But you know, this is one of those things, buyer beware. Yeah, it's like, hey, yeah, I got this super cheap, but it's gonna cost you 5 times more to get it running. So, you know, if somebody's out there that has a flare for the GT attack frame, wants to build it up or make it a single speed, or if they have parts from an old bike that the frame's toast and they just want to swap everything over, that's where a lot of frames are utilized on the used market. And there's a plethora of different types of frames. So it's one of those things that, yeah, I mean, I wish I could bring it completely back to life, but it just doesn't add up in my perspective. But it does give me parts, which originally that I did purchase the bike for, to refurbish others, to keep other bikes in vintage. The shifters are actually almost like brand new, so those are going to be a win for me, as well as the wheels. Typically I'd spend $100 on a used set of wheels anyway, so if I just use those wheels on another set, which I do get bikes periodically that have a damaged rim or so forth, I like to be matchy-matchy, so that helps me there. But anywho, somebody's going to have a lucky frame to have a project to put together. I'll put some of the major bits on there back on it to resell, and yeah, and you know, basically break even and then use the parts for other things. So that's part of the nature of the business, and that's kind of how it rolls. So, you know, anywho, on to the next bike. Well, thank you for hanging out. Blue, thank you for hanging out in the garage with me today. It's nice in your neighborhood. Go out for a ride. Until next time, from the garage. No, just kidding. I'm not ready. Not ready yet at all. Oh. All right. All right. What are we doing again? Oh, yeah. Extra energy for this one.